Welcome to Tree Talking Time, where we talk all things tree dogs, from the smallest fights to the largest hounds, treating squirrels to bears and everything in between. And from time to time, we might even run a little fast game.
I'm getting older, and the heat used to not bother me at all. But the older I get, I'm pushing 50. So the older I get, it takes a toll on me now.
It bothers me, and that's why I could never live down there.
What's the temperature up there?
I think the high today was like 80. Low 80s, something like that. It was humid, but because it rained. But
low 80s would be glorious.
But like this morning, it was, I don't want to say chilly, but it was a cold rain. So even though it wasn't, like if you were standing outside under cover, it was a little warm, but you got out in that rain, it got chilled down pretty quick.
That'd be nice. I'd like to hunt some of that stuff this time of year.
Yeah, like I said, I don't like hunting up here, yet alone down there. All them daggum snakes.
Somebody. I was talking with Daniel Felker yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
That does the Houndstooth podcast.
Yeah.
And we were just texting back and forth, and he said something about mentioning me on the podcast that they had just recorded a podcast the night before, and he goes, "Yeah, we mentioned you on there, you and all them snakes." I was like, "Man, it ain't that bad. I think I popped 11 the last hunt I was on."
Yeah. Nope.
The bad thing around here. This time, right now, we're getting more rain than I can remember getting this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it's hot and dry like this, and it's over 100, when you go to a water hole, everything is at that water hole.
Yeah,
I
bet.
I mean, you can't. We just go in guns a-blazing, and then just wade off. And I usually try to wade off into the water with the dogs. That way. I'm right there. If some of them cottonmouths, if you get, just depending on the time of the year when they're in their mating season, if you get close to them, they will come at you. They'll come and try to get in your boat. There'll be 2 or 3 of them, and they'll swim. I mean, we've smacked at them with our fishing poles and boat paddles, and shot them and kicked at them. They're pretty aggressive. So I always try to walk into the water hole with the dogs, even if it's. Last weekend we walked into a water hole to cool the dogs off. Bama got in kind of deep and got treed going across the cornfield. And when them dogs go in that corn running the coon, it is smoking hot in that cornfield.
Mm-hmm.
So once we got the trees searched and all that, I walked him in probably a little over my knees so that he could swim around and cool off. And I usually take my light off and just douse my head and shirt with whatever water we're in, just to cool down myself. Cause
no kidding, the kind of heat you got, you have to.
Yeah, it's so humid. I mean, we were, the first tree we made, we were drenched, soaking wet with sweat. But I mean, it's either that or stay at home, and I can't do that.
As much as I like to hunt, I don't have it that bad.
Well, we've back when we were duck hunting pretty hard, we've seen snakes in December, January. So I mean, they're slow,
mm-hmm.
but you get up and we use them layout blinds.
Yep.
And you go to an old rice field or something and throw them layout blinds on the side of the rice field, and when the sun comes up, you liable to look over to either side, and there'd be a cottonmouth that come out trying to get some sun.
Yeah.
And they usually don't strike, but they'll be laid up there on a log or up on the bank trying to get some sun.
Mm-hmm.
We just kick them out of the way. Keep going.
I am not a snake fan. What day was it? I don't know, 2 or 3 days ago at work. We have an older building that doesn't really get used, and I walked in there, and I was trying to check. The water had been shut off, and I wanted to see if the guys had turned the water back on. So I was just walking in the bathroom to check and see if there was water. and sitting on top of the toilet was a big old, I don't know, 5-foot black snake. And yeah, black snakes, I realize, are not poisonous, nothing super harmful by any means, but still, you're inside just not expecting to see a snake, and here's a daggone black snake. And then I sat there and I watched that sucker go down the toilet, and he knew what he was doing. It wasn't like he frantically was trying to get away from me. He just went right down, stuck his head in the water, and just out the toilet he went. And I was just like, that sucker knew he could do that.
Yeah, imagine sitting there when he come up the other way.
Exactly. I told my boss, I said, we have to get the electricians in here. I said, we have to create some sort of faulty wiring and burn this place to the ground. And he goes, what in the world are you talking about? I said, and I explained everything, and he just laughed at me. He's like, oh, you're not a fan of snakes? I'm like, no, especially not ones that go down the toilet.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that, but there's so many snakes here, especially with us having a small farm. My wife's got around 100 chickens.
Yeah.
So,
I'm sure.
And, some days we get, 30 plus eggs. Of course, we have to collect every day or they start cracking. And I don't know how many times we've gone out at night and, I just get in a hurry. I get my egg bucket and I run in and I just start scooping eggs out. And I couldn't tell you how many times I've reached in to get eggs and it'd be a, chicken snake or a rat snake or a black snake laid up in there.
Mm-hmm.
And, one of these days, I guess I could reach up in there and catch a cottonmouth, or copperhead. But so far, it's just been, the chickens are pretty good about letting you know. But there's been several times at night. Of course, they're roosted up. So,
yep.
But we just drag them out of there and throw them out in the bushes somewhere.
Nope, there's a reason I don't like.
I couldn't tell you how many times I've been bitten by dead-gum chicken snakes. Getting them out of the barn. My wife is terrified now. She sees a snake. Everybody in the county don't know it. She's screaming. I just go in there and grab them up and toss them out in the weeds somewhere and go on about it.
I'm one of those people that the only good snake's a dead snake. So.
Some of them. I mean, like when we were squirrel hunting. Back when I used to go down to the Delta a lot, squirrel hunting, the North Delta and down where Mark's cabin is at,
mm-hmm.
we had to deal with rattlesnakes, a lot, big rattlesnakes, a lot, and we usually dispatch them just because they're so dangerous. But I mean, if I run up on a cottonmouth and I ain't got nothing else to do and the dogs ain't treated, I get bored and we'll go around. We'll just go around some of the most sloughs on the side by side with whiskey drink in one hand and 22 in the other, and armadillos, possums, snakes, whatever whatever we run up on.
Thin out the problems.
Yeah, that's where I get most of my hunting. I've got about 16,000 acres of farmland that I hunt on in the different farms naturally, and that's how they all started out. It's big turkey country here.
Okay.
And, most everybody knows what I do for a living. I'm fortunate that I work on. I mean, I hate to say it, but I work on like the who's who vehicles. You know what I'm saying? I work on all the police cars and sheriff department cars and some of the highway patrol stuff and ambulances, and of course all of their wives and their kids. We give them a safe place that they can send their wives and kids to get work done and not have to worry about anybody ever tampering with them, and I also do all the farmers for the same reason. And so over the years, I've been at this one job 18 years, and over the years, I've just, they come through it. They all want to know, oh, you out running dogs, and they tell somebody, and they, farmers talk, and everybody talks, and they'll say, oh man, coons are tearing my corn feeders up. How do you get rid of them? I'll call Garner. He'll come down there.
Yeah.
And my big thing is when people come and ask me, they're like, man, if y'all tree coons, are you shooting them? I'm like, look, if that's what you want, if we tree 6 coons, I'll shoot all 7 of them. I'm down for whatever. I like to make it rain. I mean, we used to blast them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, doubles. A lot of folks get on social media and they're like, I only kill 1 coon out of every tree. And I'm going to tell you something. When them folks come here and hunt with me, they don't shoot just one coon out of a tree.
Yep.
They shoot whatever's up there. They get trigger happy and they get excited, and then big tailgates go to dancing in the back of their heads, and I just let them, I just let them blast whatever. You kill a coon down here, and 10 come to his funeral.
Yep.
You can just do whatever. I mean, we've had nights where we've killed, I don't know how many hunts we've had where we've knocked out 15 or 16 coons and left some, and
yeah.
We hunted behind the Mississippi River levee one night on 10,000 acres, and it was flooded. So about 6,000 of it was underwater, some deep and some, was wadable. But we went in by boat. It was like 5 miles of boat ride, and we just dumped the dogs. I had my old Crockett dog and I had Chrome, and we just dumped one on either side of the canal. And we looked at 40 that night and killed 23 of them.
Jeez.
Yeah, we hunted. We went in about 8:15 and came out. As a matter of fact, the duck hunters were launching their boat at the boat ramp when we was coming up to shoot to leave that morning. And it was a blast. We ran out of food, ran out of whiskey, almost ran out of bullets. We was just having it was cold. The dogs were tired. I'd do it every night if I could. Do it every night.
No, that sounds like a lot of fun. And, I go to Ohio. Maybe not every year, but almost every year. And I hunt for 3 or 4 days out there. And that's kind of the way we are out there, because the guy that got me started, Mike, he doesn't hunt real hard, especially now. He's older, has a hard time getting out. So he pretty much only hunts if he's got somebody to go with him. And so those 3 or 4 days, we put a hurting on the coon just because he's not going to be out there too much after I'm gone. So I think last year we shot 5 or 6 out of one tree, and there's a hedgerow, and it's literally a couple trees on one side, a little creek, and then a couple trees on the other side. And because of his limited mobility, we only went down maybe 1,000 yards, maybe, and we killed 8 coon out of there. And then we turned around and walked back to the truck.
That's right. Those are the fun hunts. That's what I go for, really. I mean, I know a lot of folks get on social media and they say one thing. Oh, if your dog's got to have a lot of coons, it ain't worth having. Well, I don't care. I don't care how many dead young coons the dog's got to have, whether it makes it a dog or not. I want to shoot coons.
Mm-hmm.
I like shooting. My wife tells everybody she's got 3 kids, and I'm the oldest one. I like smelling the gunpowder, and I like, if you ever get a chance to come down here and hunt, I guarantee one thing: even if we don't do nothing, we're gonna have fun, and my dogs have to be a special type of dog to stay here because I am loud. I poop and holler and yell and scream and I sound like I'm in a WWE wrestling match every time the dogs get treed and I see 2 or 3 coons up there. I get fired up every single time. And
trust me, it's on the list of places to come.
And here behind my house, there's 3 or 4 different farmers that own all this land that I back up to. It wraps around my house on one side, and then it goes from highway to highway. And roughly, I don't know exactly how many acres it is, but asking the farmers, it's roughly 5,000 plus acres that I live on right here.
Jeez.
And it's a lot of corn. And of course, it's beans, but it's a lot of corn. And in between each cornfield is a what I call a canal. It's just a big drainage, but it's maybe 10 foot deep and 10 foot wide, 12 foot wide. And it's got fords going through every one of them so we can crawl. They have to have the way to cross the combines through, but
okay.
There's maybe 20 or 30 yards of trees on either side of the canal, and it's just as far as you can see. And we ride the side by side up down them cornfields, and you can shoot as many as you. If they're moving, they're moving good. And folks come here to hunt. I know you've probably seen me put out open invite.
Oh yeah.
For people to come here and hunt. I don't care what kind of dog they have. I prefer young dogs because it's a good opportunity for people to bring young dogs. And I had some guys last year. I can't remember what time of the year it was. But I think they came from Alabama. I'd never met them. They got a hotel. We hunted. Well, I hunted 4 nights. The first night I was by myself, and then they showed up. We hunted 2 nights, and then I hunted the 4th night by myself. And we looked at 39 coons here.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, and there's no telling how many that we didn't see, that didn't look at us riding around. And that's how I work these young dogs. I bump them out in front of my side by side, and man, I fix me a good drink, and I ride these field edges and shine with that red light, and I'll shine. I see a coon shining a couple 100 yards ahead of me, I stop and I cut the dogs that way.
Yep.
And I mean, the tracks are real short because the coons are coming out of these corn and they're going right up the tree.
Mm-hmm.
They're just waiting on me to go by so they can go back, to the cornfield. So,
but that explains how you get these young dogs cranking so quick. I mean, also you just put a lot of time into them, but you've got a target-rich environment with a ton of ground.
Yeah. Any of these farms that I take a young dog to, I can put them in squirrels or coons. Thick. Even on some of our public ground, back when I was squirrel hunting a lot on our public ground, we've taken groups in there like me and Terry and a lot of other guys that, we would have people come hunting with us, and we would split up we would hunt the same section of woods. Hang on just one second. My son come in and said he's having an emergency. Sorry about that. My youngest one. I'm in my gun room because I've got my niece, my nephews here, the kids up the road. Everybody comes to the farm, and I was like, look, I'm gonna be I'm gonna be on the phone for a little while. I'm gonna go in my room and I'm gonna shut my door. Only if it's an emergency. And when the door opens, he's like whispering, "It's an emergency."
That's all right. Not a big deal. Before we get too much further in this, because we've already made it a little while into this, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name's Jeremy Garner. I'm from Mississippi. I'm right around 46, married been my wife 25 years, got 2 kids. Hunter's my oldest. He was a senior this year. Briar Cole is my youngest. He's kind of feral. He's like 8 or 9 years old. I think he's 8 going on 9.
That's a good way to describe your own child. He's kind of feral.
He is very feral. He'll growl at you. He'll hiss at you. He runs. Me and my neighbor were watching him. We were doing some work on the excavator, and he came over to where we were at. And I said, look, I can't watch you in the excavator, so just go back to the house until I get done. Then I'll let you come operate for a little while. And he was barefoot, and he tore out down a gravel driveway running wide open. I said, there's no way I could do that now. But
yeah,
we call him the feral. He's the feral kid.
Sounds like a typical second child. I got one of them. He's a little wild.
Yeah. They're both my kids are just regular old country boys. They hunt, fish. Hunters likes to mud ride, and him and his buddies, they're 16, 17, and they're trying to work. Hunter's got a dirt bike, and he's trying to trade a dirt bike for a fishing boat so that they can, which I'm glad that's what they got on their mind. There's so many other things that they could be getting into.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets into some stuff. His group of buddies, they're getting into going to parties and getting into fights and, typical teenage stuff, which, it's just how boys should be growing up.
Mm-hmm.
We try to give them we try to let our kids make their own decisions. We just try to guide them in a good direction.
Yeah.
But we still let them make the decisions, whether they're, we agree with them or not, as long as they're safe. We're pretty open when it comes to raising our kids. We don't let them run just buck wild, but I never had none of that growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to. I grew up a lot different than a lot of folks, so I'm trying to give mine some freedom.
No, it sounds like your boys have a pretty good life. That's for sure. From talking to you and just watching, I've been friends with you on Facebook for a couple of years now, and just kind of watching what, your antics and their antics and everything you guys get into and accomplishments.
It's always something going on.
Yep.
And that's the whole reason that, as a parent, you do stuff so that your kids can have better than what you. That's what I want. I think that's what parents should want out of life is, for one, to be happy with their spouse, but two, to make it so where their kids have better opportunities than what they had.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with pups. You want every pup you get to be better than the next. And that's the same thing I want for my kids. I want my kids to have it, to be better and to be better than me and be a better man than me and a better father than me. So I'm trying to teach them better than I was taught.
Yeah. Man, look at you getting deep, getting these life lessons.
Look, I sometimes I sit around and I do what I call thinking drinking. And I can get pretty deep into stuff sometimes. I try not to, too much, but
no, that's good stuff for sure. Well, if we're gonna get deep into something, let's get deep into these albino brindles.
Albino brindles.
Well, you're gonna have to explain what an albino brindle is, because most people listening are gonna be very confused.
Well, back when I first started, I got my first registered cur and really got into it pretty deep. Which everything I do is 150%. I don't know how to do anything 80%, or 50%. It's just not in my DNA. I'm wired different. I'm not programmed that way. But so when I got into it, I like the black, really dark brindle,
mm-hmm.
Or the brindle dog or black dog. That's just what I like. And I just did not like a yellow dog, and I always said I just don't like them. I don't want to own one. There was many years I said I will never own a yellow dog. And one of my closest buddies, he don't hunt anymore. He's we called him. I called him my red Mexican because he was family was from Mexico, but he was born here in the Air Force, and I called him my red Mexican buddy, and he had a double grand pup to Shiloh's Chipper.
Yeah.
Big old beefy yellow dog, huge wind and nose. He didn't have much of a mouth, but we killed so much game with him. And I teased him all the time. I was like, man, I don't even know how you tote that thing around in your truck the way he looks. I said, I there for a while, I would tell folks, I'd go to a hunt, and when I'd go, hey, look, I've got some brindle spray paint in the toolbox there. Take care. We can take care of this, this mess out here that you're hauling around. And it just one day, I think my buddy's name was Aaron. Me and Aaron and a couple other friends, we were at one of our hunts down at our old barn where we were having our competition hunts at. And we were laying around, and somebody asked me, like, how do you go hunting every night with that yellow dog as much as you hate him? And I said, that dog ain't yellow. I said, he's an albino brindle. I said, I can go hunting with him every night. And I mean, look, the whole place just bust out laughing, and it stuck. I mean,
mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you how many people have commented or said something to me about calling them albino brindle. And when I started trying to find something, there was a couple years, about 2 years, I didn't have a dog, and Crockett, even every litter he had, which I didn't breed him much. He wasn't a good reproducer, as good of a dog as he was. But every litter he put one dead gum albino brindle, and that's what I told folks. They were teasing me so bad.
Yep.
That's karma for somebody that does not like yellow dogs. The best dog, your best coon dog, is putting a yellow dog in every litter. And I kept telling them, they ain't yellow. Them's albino brindles, boy. I mean, y'all can say what you want to, but and dead gum. they turned out them two turned out to be the best of the bunch.
Well, one of those is the dog Kyle Baker was talking about, Sam, right?
Yes, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Sam was the second litter of my Big Sioux female, which she was all Kimmer.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't have Kimmer papers. There was one cross way back somewhere. One of the females came from like a Trade Days dog sale.
Okay.
So I don't know where down the line, but anyway, she didn't have. It was the only cross that wasn't Kimmer.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what that one dog on those papers were because I vowed to not speak its name.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I crossed her with my Crockett dog. He was, I would say, roughly half old stock busher and half Kimmer, which, it come to folks just called it old stock. But
yeah.
I crossed them two dogs because me and Tim Cope actually bought Big Sioux to breed and to hunt because she was a fantastic reproducer. Huge squally ball mouth. She had big motors. She would go as deep as you needed a dog to go.
Mm-hmm.
When I crossed into the first time, I actually rode up to Jamestown and picked Sue up. She was at Matthew Hall that owned the tree knocking ammo dog.
Okay.
He had bred Sue to ammo, and when she weaned the pups, I went and picked her up and brought her home. And next time she come in, I crossed her on Crockett, and at like day, what do they carry him? 63 days, I think.
Yep.
So it was like day 71, something like
smokes.
that. I called Tim. I said, "Man, she is not. She just must have been a false pregnancy. She blowed up pretty big." But I went down to feed. It was like day 71 or 72. I went down to feed, and she wouldn't come out of her barrel. And I thought, well, maybe she's sick. I'm going to take her to the vet. And I reached in and grabbed her by the collar, drug her out of that barrel. And when I did, a dadgum pup flopped out on the concrete, and it was damn albino brindle. And I looked in, I kind of peeked up inside there, and I said, there was remnant of another pup,
mm-hmm.
but I'm assuming she ate half part of it.
Yeah.
And this brindle, albino brindle pup popped out on the concrete, and I didn't know. It could have been in there for a day or two, and I just didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
I never looked in the barrel. I never seen a mess. So I'm guessing she had it inside the barrel because there was no mess on the concrete. And I just whipped out my pocket knife and laid it on the concrete, and I just drug my blade across and chopped its tail off and throwed it back in the barrel. And and I said, well, if that's all I'm gonna get, that's all I'm gonna get. I'll just, I be honest with you, I was gonna cull it.
Mm-hmm.
My wife threw a fit, and so I traded it for, I don't know, I think I traded it for a 22 pistol or something. And that is the Shine dog that Luke Mitchell owns.
Okay.
He made his rounds a couple times. I ended up getting him back. So I crossed him again the next time she come in the heat, wanting to get me a brindle pup off the two, or a black pup. And
yeah,
the second cross, she had 4 pups. Second cross, 2 males, 2 females. I gave a pup to Tim Cope.
Mm-hmm.
I gave a pup to Tim. I kept a huge brindle female. John Mears and Matt Balk went in together and got the other female. She was black with brindle trim. And then there was one albino brindle in the bunch, stuck out there like a sore thumb. And Kyle wanted a male. And there was only 2 males, one brindle. And of course, me and Tim was in on, so Tim got to pick. But Tim took the brindle male. And
yep.
And I called Kyle, and he said, "Look, I don't want one, but if that's the only way I can get a pup out of that cross, I'll take it." Because he had came over here 2 different times and hunted with both parents,
mm-hmm.
and both of them huge ball mouth, big ball locate, big hunting dogs, big winding dogs, and that's Sam. Kyle is the when you want somebody to get a pup from you, Kyle is who you want to give a pup.
Mm-hmm.
I would give Kyle a pup off of anything. If he called me and says, "Hey, I don't know what you got, but I want a pup," he could come over here and get any pup he wanted from me, and wouldn't cost him a dime, because I know he's going to put the time into it. He's got the game to do it. He knows what to look for, and if it's not going to work, he's like me. He knows what needs to happen. You know. And out of them 4 pups, Tim's pup went to a hog hunter. He just didn't something about the pup he didn't like. It went to a hog hunter. The other female got traded around and bred. And last I found, she was dead. And then the pup I kept, be honest with you, Crockett just wasn't as good a reproducer as Sue was. Crockett just couldn't carry his half.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave her to my cousins, and they still have her. They use her for a blood tracking dog. I think she's probably 8-year-old now, something like that. She just was slow on the track, you know.
Okay.
Which works good for a blood trailing dog.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Sam, both times I crossed them pups, both the Albino Brindles are the only pups that really made it. I mean, you know, so when it came around to, you know, after we went through the whole, the Shine pup was the only, besides our house dog, he was the only dog to come out of the tornado.
Yeah. Which we'll just pause this right here and just say, if you don't listen to, hang on, what is Daniel's podcast?
The
drawing a blank.
Coonhound Confidential.
Yes, because you were on there and you told, and it was not a typical episode for him, but all you guys went over like their whole tornado experience, which will send chills up your back if you haven't listened to it. So definitely go listen to that.
That was the only time I've, I guess, publicly told the story, you know, told my story on the whole deal. Of course, you know, my friends have heard me tell it several times. For me, the more I tell it, the easier it is to live with it.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought something like that would affect my everyday life, but I'm telling you, 100%, it affects everything.
Oh yeah.
But so the Shine dog is the dog that we were hunting. I had got him back, and that's what we had.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how Luke Mitchell ended up with him. I didn't have anywhere to live. Me and my wife were sleeping on an air mattress, and my 2 kids were in a bed next to us, and everything we owned was in one bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have any kennels. I didn't, you know, everything was destroyed. So I knew I didn't want nobody to have to keep the dog for me and feed him, and I didn't know how long it was going to be before I got back up on my feet. I called Luke Mitchell when he was probably 13 or 14. His parents were customers of mine, and they come by the shop and said, "My son follows you on Facebook and would love to go hunting." And I said, "Absolutely." So he killed his first coon to chrome, and I don't know how many nights that I would go pick him up and take him with Chrome or Crockett, either one. And he had always said one day he would want his own dog. And I could have sold Shine for a pretty good bit because he was just a really nice combo dog.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, I called up Luke and I said, "Look, I got a proposition for you. I don't have anywhere to live." And, you know, he knew he had actually came to the house and kind of helped us clean up some stuff. And I said, "I've got a single hold dog box. Here's the papers. Here's the dog." I don't remember. I may have loaned him my Garmin and stuff until he could get him one. And I said, I may want down the road, I may want to breed to him, but I will never come to you and ask you for the dog back. He's your dog. I'm giving him to you. He's yours. When you leave here with him, he's yours. What you do with him is your business, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he hunted that dog day and night for several years, and still owns him. Of course, he's older now in college. Well, I think he's out of college working full time, and then he's in a band. So, of course, the dog is 9, going on 10, I think. But that's where I was at when that happened. So then I went about a year or two. I think I went 2 years without a dog. And once we got to the place we're at now and got settled in,
You
I
went
think
through a bunch.
I did. I went through a lot. I'm extremely hard to please, and I believe in culling. I believe in hunting hard and culling harder. Man, there's so much junk out there get passed around, it gets bred, and then it creates junk. I don't believe in brood females. I know people have gotten world champions out of their brood jip, and that's fine for them. I just don't care to do it.
I understand.
So I went through a bunch. I went through English dogs. I went through Walker dogs. I went through cur dogs. I went through old stock dogs. I went through Kimmer dogs. I even tried some of that other stuff. What I call the X3 OMCBA stuff. The little old crow pup. I tried. I tried hard to like that pup. I did. I tried really hard, and I could not. There were just some things about that pup I did not like. And Mark called me one day and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to cull this pup." He's like, "Why?" Because he pretty much paid my way. Me and him rode down to Texas to pick him up.
Okay.
And I told him, and he called me back. He said his wife, my wife says, "You better not cull that pup." So I met him in between, and I just gave him the pup, and then I kept on looking, and the whole time, Chris Boone's a really good friend of mine, and the whole time, he's teasing me, texting me constantly. So I say, "You picked up another pup today. Did you cull it on the way home or what?" And I told him, I said, if you'll find me something that's, that you think would suit me, I won't cull it. I just, and I was sitting on the couch one night and the phone rang, and it was a guy. I didn't know him. I knew who he was, but I never spoke to him. Ronnie Wooten from over Alabama, a couple hours over in Alabama, and it was funny because the way Ronnie kind of eased into the conversation, he sent me a message on social media. He said, "Hey, there's a vet clinic up by you that is one of the better in the area at having, drawing semen and storage and all that. Do you know anything about them?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'll give you a call." So actually I sent him a number, and he called me, and we got to talking about this vet clinic, and he said, "While I got you on the phone, Chris Boone told me you was looking for a dog." And he started describing the dog. And I said, "Man, that sounds just like what I'm looking for." And I knew some of Chris's dogs, some of the dogs that I've had in the past that I really liked came from Chris, and they were dark brindle black,
Yep.
And I said, "What color is the dog?" And he said, "Yellow." And I said, "Oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me." And I said, I said, "I've been through a lot of dogs, and I'm kind of gun shy." I said, "Do you mind if I come over and just take a look at him?" I can't. I'm not telling you that I will or won't. I said, "And I'm going to be 100% upfront with you. I'll come wherever you're at. I don't care if the dog makes a tree. All I want to do is see the dog turn loose in the woods and see how he acts. That's all I want. No expectations of anything,
Yep.
And he said, "Sure." So we made a plan, and I rode over and met Ronnie Wooten and friends of his, Drew Mann and Caleb Smith. Caleb and one of his friends, I can't remember his name. They're big into hog hunting over there, and they only use Kimmers to hog hunt.
Okay.
And I met them over there at some public ground, big sticking hogs over there. And we pulled up, met him at a gas station. We drove over where we was going to hunt. We got out of the truck, and Ronnie explained to me. I'm going to tell you exactly how he told me. He explained to me. He said, shook his hand, and he said, "Son, I want you to get your collar and put it on this dog right here." He said, "And I want you to treat him like he's yours while we're here. At the end of our hunt, if you don't want him, take your collar off, put him back in that dog box, and me and you can be friends. You don't have to take him. It is not going to hurt my feelings one bit."
Mm-hmm.
He said, "The dog has never been to the woods hunting like this." He said, "The dog has never been in a dog box until I shoved him in there today. I don't know how he's going to act. Don't know what he's going to do." He kind of threw his hands up, and he said, "Me and you fix to see what he's going to do together." And Ronnie collared his two dogs up, and he cut them loose from the truck. And Caleb had a truckload of dogs in his dog box. When we got done hunting that morning, they was going hog hunt in there. And Caleb told me, he said, "Look over in that dog box." He said, "There's a female in there that's a litter mate for that dog you fixing to look at." And they called him, his name was, Ronnie was calling him the Alabama Bally was his name. And so we cut him loose. And of course, we just was, how it is when you never hunted with somebody before. You just kind of casual conversation, getting to know each other, and kind of, feeling each other out. He don't know me, I don't know him. And so he's just telling me about the dogs, and I'm asking him about, the bloodline and, what they go back to. And I mean, all of a sudden, a deadgum roar comes through the woods like you ain't never heard before. And I looked over at Ronnie, and he looked at me, and he was grinning. He said, "That's that pup?" I said, "There's no way." He said, "I'm telling you," he was not close. I mean, he was a good ways in there. And he did that 2 or 3 times. He was big, old, screaming, squally ball, okay. And we started that way. And the other dogs, I think there was 3 dogs with him. There was 4 dogs total. Another year-old pup and 2 older dogs. And they all went in there where he's at and started treeing. Well, when they went into him, he left. And Ronnie says, "Hey, that's, the times I have been hunting him, that's, he just has been running loose in the yard.
Mm-hmm.
Never, he wouldn't just to back up just a hair. He wouldn't run a deer. He wouldn't chase a rabbit. He wouldn't tree a squirrel. Wouldn't tree a coon. He wouldn't bay a hog. He wouldn't do nothing. He just laid in the yard. Didn't have no interest in doing anything other than laying around and eating. And I don't know how old he was. Ronnie said one day he went outside and he heard him treat on a squirrel, and he went over and knocked it out. And he just kind of slowly progressed. And so anyway, when they went into him, he left, and he went a little deeper, a couple 100 yards, and he started throwing them big old locates again. And I was like, "Hey, gum, that dog's got a mouth." And of course, the dogs kind of left and went to him again and started treeing with him, and he left the tree again. And so we were still walking. So this time I thought, let's try to get in there and get them other dogs and see if I can get to him and get him tied. And so their dogs were still treed, and we went to their dogs and searching the tree. And I heard him a couple 100 yards, a little bit deeper in there, and he started treeing again. And I just took off. I left him, and I run into where he's at, and I leashed him up. And I was just couldn't believe at the mouth on this dog. And they leashed their dogs and walked him into where he was at. We tied the dogs back, and we got to shaking vines, and it was a big dead snag next to him. And I shot up in that snag, and a squirrel come out, and we knocked it out to him. And he made 3 or 4 trees that day, but with them other dogs there, he would get deeper and deeper. And I think one of his trees in there, he treed in like 1.1 mile.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was just trying to get away from other dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And then they struck a hog, and they run, and he jumped in there with them. And then he broke off the hog and got in there and treed again towards the truck pretty deep. And I said, "Look, y'all go catch your dogs. I'm going to go catch him. And, if I need to, I'll drive around and pick you up." So by the time I got him caught, got to the truck, their dogs had done got cut up. The hunt was over. And when they had come and got a truck, went back around and picked them all up. And when they come back around, we kind of assessed the situation of their dogs being cut up real bad. And I looked at Ronnie. I said, "Look, I know you need to get your dogs home and get them stapled up, took care of, and all that." I said, "I'm gonna take this dog home with me. I've seen enough today, just from his hunt and his mouth. First time he'd ever been to the woods, first time he'd ever been in the dog box, showed me he had something."
Oh yeah.
So I put him in the dog box, and on the way home, I'm thinking, I can't believe I really just picked up this albino brindle, and I'm taking him home. And that was my start of this whole downhill spiral, I call it, of karma. And I called Chris on the way home, and thanked him for connecting us, and
yeah,
he asked me what I thought about the dog, and I said, I think I've got something I can work with.
Oh yeah.
He told me, he said, "Don't cull him." First thing out of his mouth, he said, "Don't cull him." And of course, Ronnie had told me that. He said, "If you don't want him, that was the deal." He said, "If you take him home and hunt him, you don't like him, call me. I'll meet you. I'll pick him up. No hard feelings. We be friends. We can hunt together. I won't think nothing about it." He said, "If you like him, you want to keep him, he's yours." I said, "I'll be glad to pay you for him." He said, "No, son, I don't sell dogs. I'm not in the market of selling dogs." He said, "If you like him, I'll send you the papers." And I called him one day, and I said, "Man," I said, "I think this is a dog I've been looking for." And a week later, papers showed up to my door in my name. He even had the dog registered in the name I wanted him. That's when I, as a kind of a tribute to Ronnie, I guess you could say, just out of respect for Ronnie, not really a tribute, but out of respect for Ronnie, I just called him. I just shortened it to Bama, and just called him, asked him to put Cane Creek Bama on there, and I've been hunting him hard as I've been giving him all he can handle.
How long have you had him now?
He's a year and a half old. I think I got him last October, or this past October, I think.
Okay.
He was, I can't remember, 10, 11 months old. He wasn't a year old when I got him, but he was real close.
Mm-hmm.
And he has been through, it's kind of, I hate using the word karma. I really don't even like that word, even though people tell me all the time that's just karma coming back to get you for all the negative comments and bad things I've ever said about everybody that's hunting yellow dogs. And I've almost gotten into some knockdown, drag out fights with folks, but over just, cause my mouth, I got a big mouth. Everybody knows it, but some folks don't know how to take me, because I'll say whatever I want to whoever I want. And over the years, I've learned to take a good butt whipping for it. Just is what it is. It's got me in a mess. My whole family's that way. I got an older brother that he's 61 years old and still same way as I am. Just whatever comes, And I've pulled up to I've been to a lot of competition hunts. Me and Terry, in our squirrel club, we've probably hosted 200 or plus.
Wow.
And of course, there's tons of folks, hunting Kimmers and OMCB8 dogs that are non-brindles, and I just always tease them. I can't believe y'all bring it. I would judge the bench show sometimes, and it was a big joke when people would put a non-brindle dog up on the bench show, and they would say, "Man, you in brindle country, right? There's no way that dog."
It's gonna win.
It's not gonna win no bench show in North Mississippi. I would never do someone that way. It was just a teasing joke.
Yeah.
It just so happened that every time I judged, it was some nice brindle dogs up there.
I'm sure.
But it's just without using the word karma. Bama falling into my life was something I ain't gonna try to get deep on you again. I have been drinking a little good bit today, but without getting too deep on you, Bama come to me. He needed me at the same time in my life I needed him. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
When Bama was, Ronnie told me this story. They was 7 or 8 guys. I went over to the KSBA hunt in Hamilton, Alabama. It was my first KSBA event, Kimmer Stock Breeders Association. First hunt I'd ever been to was KSBA.
Okay.
It was an outstanding hunt, by the way. Had a great time. It was huge crowd, like 26 in the squirrel and like 14, I think, in the coon.
Wow.
It was a great hunt. And there were some folks there. Ronnie was introducing me to people, and we were talking about Bama, and they were asking me, he's just a unique dog with that big mouth and that big motor for a timber dog, or for any cur. To be honest, there ain't many of them that'll go. We turned him loose behind the Mississippi River levee, and I picked him up 2.5 miles north.
Jeez.
He just goes. If there's nothing for him to treat, nothing moving, he just goes, till he finds something. But Ronnie was telling a story to these fellas when I come walking up. We were talking. Anyway, he got to telling us about Bama when he was a pup. And this is going to be to everybody out there listening. I'm just going to tell y'all now. It's going to sound unbelievable, all right? But the story that I told on the Coon Hunting Confidential podcast,
mm-hmm.
to some people, that story was unbelievable, And when I tell this, when I said that he came to me, he needed me the same time I needed him. You're fixing to understand why. When he was a pup, he was running loose in Ronnie's yard. Between Ronnie and his brother, they have their family farm. I think it's 500 acres. And in between their two houses, they sit up kind of on the road, old country road. Between the two houses is a big creek separates them. And Ronnie had Bama and a couple young females. I think he was maybe 5-6 months old. Had them running loose there in his yard like he does all his pups. He just lets them start on his own. They run loose.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he'd come out behind the house one day and he heard just across in the pasture, across the road from his house, he heard a heck of a dog fight. But he couldn't see nothing. So he got to looking, didn't say nothing, and it kind of quit. And I think he told me, I want to be right, but I think he told me he might have went in the house. And as he was coming back out, he heard it again. And it was closer, and he went and grabbed a gun and took off running. And there was 3 stray dogs had Bama in the creek between him and his brother, and they had chewed him up. Half his ear, pretty much the whole back of his ear was ripped off on his right side. His face was ripped up. His chest was ripped open in 4 or 5 spots, puncture wounds.
Wow.
The water in the creek was just red. There was skin hanging off of his legs, and if you look at some of his pictures real close, you can see the scars.
Mm-hmm.
They chewed him up real bad, and Ronnie got them off of him. And I don't know if the same day or at a different time, but them dogs killed another female of Ronnie's that was running loose, and they injured another one. And Bama ran up underneath an old barn they got there, and stayed up under that barn for a week. And they didn't even know if he was alive or not.
Mm-hmm.
And Ronnie said about a week later he was in that barn looking for something, and he said he got to smelling something in the back of the barn and walked back that way, and there was like under the barn was a cubby hole where they would store stuff up under the barn to keep it cool, and maybe no root cellar or something like that. Anyhow, he got to smelling something, and when he looked up in there, that Bama laid up in there, and he stunk from the infection.
Yeah.
Ronnie said he got him out of there and just started doctoring him, stitching him up wasn't no good, a week later. But he just got to putting, salve on him and giving him antibiotics and trying to get him healed back up. And he healed up. And it's a wonder that he even does anything.
Yeah.
Much less to go from that much drama to what he's doing now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been making it a point every weekend to hunt him with a strange dog and a strange person as much as I possibly can, even though I want to hunt a young dog by themselves.
Yeah.
And some nights, hunting with another dog don't bother him a bit. You can cut him loose and he leaves like he's late for work consistently. He gets in there and he'll tree a coon at 100 yards, tree one at a mile. So far, I've hunted him with young. I've been hunting with hounds. Most all my friends around here have English dogs and Walker hounds, black and tan, and I've not had any ill dogs, jump on him. Most everybody I hunt with, if they've got an ill dog, they're gonna call it. Just the way it is. Twice we've been out hunting, and the coats have got between me and him, and he opens on track with a big ball locate, and in a couple nights, every time he would open, the coats would go to yipping and hollering, and that freaks him out now. One night the coats got really close, and I watched him on the Garmin. He made a big loop, about 800-yard loop around me, and I knew where he was going. So I just turned around and started walking back, because I didn't even have my side by side then. I was walking. One of the farms I got floods really bad. Well, several of them do, but this particular farm I was at was flooded pretty bad in January, and he made a big loop around me, and I started walking back towards the truck, and when I got to the truck, I couldn't find him. And I know he was there. I always leave my tailgate down and my dog box door open for him, just in case.
Okay.
Just something I've always done with all my dogs. If they go back to the truck for any reason, I don't want them in the road, or, I'd rather them get in the box and wait on me.
Yep.
And I got a diamond plate toolbox and a full-size dog box, and he had gotten under the diamond plate dog box, under the diamond plate toolbox, and was hiding. That's how much them codes shook him up.
Yeah.
Understandable. I mean, I told him, I ain't mad at you, son. Come on, let's just go home. And that's what I do. Every now and then, I'll cut him loose and just be something uneasy about him, and I've learned over years, I've ruined several dogs by not paying attention to my dog, and I like Bama enough, and he's a good enough young dog. I just try to watch and pay attention to him, and not long ago, I went by myself. I drove to one of my farms, unloaded my wheeler. We drove about a mile back, cut loose. He made a big loop, and he come back to me, which he don't normally do. And I thought, what in the world's going on? I said, you better get your butt ahead, son. And he just wouldn't go, and it clicked in my head. I said, something got him uneasy. Must be some codes out there somebody just can't hear.
Yep. And
instead of whipping him with my leash or getting a limb and whipping him to make him go, thankfully, folks, Tim Cope, Morrison, and all of them will tell you I ain't got much sense. All right. But I do have enough that I put him in the dog box. I drove all the way back to the truck, and we came all the way back home. We wasn't gone 10 minutes, Went back next night, and it was business as usual.
Like you said, probably some coyotes out there that you didn't know were there.
Probably so, or something. I used to would get 15 years ago, I'd look like an old strutting rooster out there in the middle of the woods. I'd be scratching the ground and I'd be mad, that my dog wouldn't go hunt. And I ruined a couple of nice young dogs from trying to make them, but you can't make a dog go hunt. They got to have it.
Oh yeah.
So now, when I see a dog, not that I'm nobody, but folks come from all over and bring young dogs here for me to hunt for them. I just got a knack for pups, and I see one that ain't acting right. I ain't trying to make it go hunting. I'm going to put that dude back in the dog box and we go on to the house. Try again next night, that's one good thing about having, 5,000 acres in my backyard. I can go every night.
Yeah, it's not like I know guys, good friends of mine around here, that when they load up, they're driving 40 minutes to go hunt. So it is frustrating when you do all that and then your dog doesn't want to hunt.
It is. I try to keep two dogs of hunting age, or I try to
always have a dog that belongs to somebody else to hunt. So that particular night, Bama was I didn't have my little honey pup. I just had Bama, and I didn't have nothing else with me. Had I had another dog with me, I would have just took his collar off, cooled him off, keep him in the dog box, and I'd have hunted the other dog if it would have hunted. But some nights I got honey with me, some nights I don't. Just depends on what mood I'm in.
Well, let's talk about honey.
Oh, well, after I got Bama, like I said, I always try to keep 2 dogs to hunt. One of them gets hurt, whatever. And so I told Chris, I said, all right, Magic Man, you done found me one. Find me something else. And I called, another close friend of mine, Dwight Anderson. I called Dwight, and I said, Dwight's got a bunch of old stock busher stuff, and he's got some dogs from Chris that he's crossing, and he's got some good crosses going right now.
Mm-hmm.
I called him and I said, look, I need something. I got one. I need something else. And I said, I prefer it to be, black or brindle. I said, I think only one albino brindle is all the heat I can handle right now. And man, out of the blue, I can't even remember who it was, but out of the blue, somebody texted me just like a random number. I didn't even recognize it. Sent me a text. Of course, my number's plastered everywhere. I don't care. And he's like, hey, there's a fella in Kentucky that had some timber pups dual registered. He may still have a couple left. Give him a call. So he gave me the guy's number. His name's Alfred Gentry, but for about 6 months, I called him Alvin until he corrected me one day, and I said, well, you still may get called Alvin a time or two, But Alfred Gentry up in Kentucky, I called him, and he said, man, I happen to have 2 pups. He said, I've got, he owns the mom and daddy, and both parents came from Chris Boone's place.
Okay.
So he said, I got a female here that I'd be interested in getting rid of. He said, I had a big litter, and for whatever reason, everybody that came and got a pup kicked this pup to the side. He said, man, she ain't look no different. She ain't act no different. She wasn't no small pup. She just was an average pup like the rest of them, but for whatever reason, nobody liked her, but she got picked over every time, and I'm stuck with her. And I said, man, what color is she? He said, yellow. I said, hey, come. Well, he told me, he said, I'll take $200 for her. I said, well, crap, $200, even if I got her home and I didn't like her, I'll call her for $200. I've called dogs that heck, I've given $1,500 for them and hunted them 2 nights and called them because I didn't like them. But anyway, so I called the White and because I done spent about $3,500 in hauling junk in here and culling it, and I was just tired of wasting my money. So I called the White, and the White is about as good a friend as you can ask for. I give him a hard way to go, but he expects it. You know what I'm saying?
I think anybody that's friends with you expects it.
They have to if they won't be buddies with me. Dwight, one of Dwight's legs is shorter than the other. I don't know if people know that about Dwight. It's from so many years of hunting on them mountains. He has to have one leg shorter than the other because he walks. Walking in the side of the mountains. There's been a time in my life I had a man crush on Dwight there for a while. Dwight's been going to the gym and working out, and he's got them fancy tattoos now, and he's just a handsome fella. Anyhow, I called him up. He went and met Alfred and picked this little pup up, and he called me and he goes, man, he said, you probably ain't gonna like his pup. I'm probably just gonna keep her. Right then, I knew that she was probably a pretty decent pup because he's like me now. He don't like no albino brindle pup either. Even though he's got one of them up there himself that he likes. That's common. Him and his brother both, Dwayne, they both got one of them albino brindles that are doing really good, and it's karma coming back to bite us all for all the bad stuff we said. But so another one of my closest friends in the whole world lives, born and raised in Jamestown, Tennessee. Kurt Dog, man, he's probably been to more hunts at Jamestown than anybody else that's still active in the curs, because his dad was a coon hunter, granddaddy was a coon hunter, born and raised right there when they, was going to hunts before it was even at Jamestown.
Mm-hmm.
I called him up. Gerald Raines is his name. I called him up. He went and met Dwight. They don't live about, as a crow flies across the mountain, about an hour and a half or two at the most from each other.
Okay.
And Gerald's like, he's just another one of my good friends. I'm fortunate. I don't know what I've done in my life to have all these really good friends that just, I worry the crap out of them about dogs. Helping me drag this one in, and I'll call Gerald and I say, look, man, there's a dog about 2 hours from you. Would you mind picking him up and holding him, and I'll meet you and get him? He's done it so many times. And he even has called me one time, and he goes, I just picked this dog up for you. Give me going and cull it. Just save myself some gas money. But anyway, so he picks this pup up, and the next day, I think him and his wife was going to Cookville or somewhere up around in there, and so I called Chris Boone. I said, hey, look, I'm trying to save myself some gas money and save myself some hauling fee. I said, would you go over and meet Gerald, pick his pup up, and bring her home, and then I'll drive to your house. It's only 4 hours. It's 4. Depends on how much traffic.
Okay.
It's 4 hours. It's 4 hours. In normal traffic. If there ain't no traffic and I can run about 90, I can make it 3.5. So Chris keeps the pup. I don't even remember, overnight or something like it. It wasn't there long. And I called him. I said, I'm on my way. I said, you have her treeing before I get there, because I need something I can start hunting. And of course he's like, oh, when he leave my house, everything's treeing, Some of them pups still have milk rings on their mouth to be out there treeing squirrels. But so I go to pick my pup up. I pull up in the driveway, and we, can't find the pup nowhere. He's like, man, I had her running loose. And Chris lives right on the side of the road. They got a bunch of land, but it's not attached, to where their house and his kennels are.
Mm-hmm.
And he's always got a dog running loose there. Anyway, we got to looking for her, and his wife had done let her inside. She was asleep on the Christmas tree. Like a picture perfect type, one of them old where the red fern grows type moments,
Yep.
Oh, look at the pup, sleep on the tree. But anyway, I drug her home, and I typically don't name a pup. Because odds are I'm gonna call it, and I don't want to waste a good name. You know what I'm saying? So I wait.
I like your rationale, because I've wasted some good names.
Yeah. I mean, I wasted a pretty decent good names myself, and then I got to thinking one day. I'm like, well, that's dumb. You wasting names are hard to come up with. A good name,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I just don't name them. They'll either name themselves, or something will happen and they'll name it, or whatever, and then I'll go, hey, you know what? That sounds good. So, hang on. So, I brought her home, and I give her a couple of days, and I built myself a starting pen here, and I didn't have intentions on really starting pups for other people. I just did it for myself. I wanted to have a litter of pups, and I want to keep every single pup in the litter, and let them raise in that starting pen, and cull the ones I don't like and keep the ones I like.
Mm-hmm.
That was my plan.
How big is your starting pen?
Right now it's 1.25 acres. And I did it. I finished it. I can't remember when I finished it now, but I knew that before the heat of this summer, I did it last summer so that I could use it all winter. And I knew it's 3 acres. It's going to be 3 acres total. And I knew I couldn't get it all done because I'm doing it by myself mostly.
Mm-hmm.
My wife has helped me some, and a couple of my buddies. One a good friend of mine that hunts with me all the time, Jeremy Tompkins. He's coming. He's on his way over here. We're going to hunt tonight. He helped me with it some, but I knew I wasn't going to finish it. So what I done was I stopped halfway. Well, and I stopped at about 1.25 acres. It's 8-foot commercial chain link down one side, and then it's 6-foot commercial chain link all up the back, and then it's 6-foot chain link along the front.
Okay.
So I've already started doing the dirt work and clearing to get my, clearing the brush and the trees where I can get my, post holes dug and but I got so much going on. I'm gonna wait till next summer to before I start on the second half. But so anyway, I got the 1.25 acres down there, and I got me some feeders in it. I've probably turned loose, I don't know, probably 30 or 40 squirrels back there, and 70 or 80 coons. I've probably turned loose. People trap for me. I don't use hot wires to keep them in. They just free range, come and go.
Yep.
But there's some that come so much they don't even care about the dog. So I throwed honey in the starting pen down there, and just right off the bat, I could. She just gave me. She was just a gamey little pup. I mean, chasing the chickens, chasing the barn cat. I would go down there when I get off work and let her out and just let her run loose here on the farm. I mean, I live at the end of a dead end road, and my road is off of another dead end road, so there's no traffic. We're like, I think my driveway's close to 400 feet from the road to the house, so I just come home and let her run loose with us, whatever we're doing. And one morning I went down to the pen. I would let her just sleep in the pen. I got some insulated dog houses down there. I went down there every morning at 6. I go out and I let my horses out to the pasture. I let my chickens out of the coop. I feed my dogs, and I go, if I got stuff in the pen, I go down there and make a round. And I heard her barking, and I went down there and I was like, "What you barking at, old girl?" And she went right to one of them feeders and was looking up barking. I think, no way. I'm talking like, I think she was 12 weeks old when I got her. So we're talking 12 and a half weeks old, maybe. Mm-hmm. Maybe 14, 15, maybe 15 weeks. She might have been 15. Something like that.
She was little.
Little. I mean, tiny. Every single day I would go to that pen, she was treeing squirrels. So my neighbor, which is me and him's gotten pretty close. His mother owns the little property, next to me. As a matter of fact, I lease her. I can't say lease. I've got her pasture that my horses are in. Mm-hmm. Give mine a break sometimes, and I'll cut her grass for her or whatever. But her son owns all the land across the road from me, and I use his place just as somewhere different to walk pups. And I've got some trails, 4 of the trails through his place I walk them on. And I went down his driveway one day going over there if you don't know the truth about it, he called me and said, "Come over and it's drink." So I throwed honey in a side by side, and I went over there and pulling up his driveway. He was walking down the driveway, and I was pulling in, and 2 squirrels crossed the driveway. And I got her out of the truck and turned her loose. And I said, "Go grab your 22." Around here, squirrel season and coon season's open all year, whether it is or it ain't. So she went there and treed. I mean, just as pretty. I posted a video of it. I got my phone out, and anyway, squirrel timbered. She timbered with it like she'd been doing it her whole life. And from that point on, she just went squirrel crazy. So I just started hunting. I mean, I was taking her to the big woods at 5 months old, 4.5, 5 months old. I'd take my youngest boy. We'd go down to most of these farms I got, I can hunt them. I can coon hunt them all year long. Deer season, off season, they don't care. They know these deer hunters on the farms that I hunt. They know from years of me taking them hunting with me, of me hanging out with them, cooking out with them. The farmers. They know my dogs don't bother the deer. Mm-hmm. So they'll be at their camps cooking out, for the weekend, and I'll go in and I may go in and eat with them and then go coon hunting, and then I'll come out and they'll go and deer hunt. But I've got a couple that they don't want me squirrel hunting because they got kids that may want to shoot a deer. So I can't squirrel hunt them during the day of while they're deer hunting.
Mm-hmm.
But like during the week, if I'm off during the week and they're not out there and I text them and they're not hunting, then I can go. But so me and Briar Cole would start taking honey to some of these farms and I mean, of course, she's treeing hot squirrels, but when we're loaded with squirrels, just like we are coon, and she just started treeing squirrel after squirrel after squirrel, and a young pup is the most accurate. A dog is the most accurate when they're younger because nobody has taught them to lie.
Mm-hmm.
Patting on trees and a young pup runs up to a tree and it's looking up. You can see the squirrel. You want that dog to bark so bad. Folks go to patting and come on, Gratz, you can do it. Talk to them. Well, they teaching them to lie, even though you can see that squirrel. What about the next time you don't see a squirrel? But you're gonna do it anyway. So anyway, I never talked her up. She just done it, and I praised her whenever she. I don't praise them until I see the game. And then I just give them a light little at a girl, and I shoot the game, and we move to the next one. And I mean, she treated a daytime coon one afternoon. Maybe it was a morning. She bait up another coon during the day, which I think me and Briar Cole went. We killed. She was making like 4 or 5 trees a hunt.
Nice.
And I think we'd shot 2 or 3 squirrels to her one day. Of course, the leaves was off. It was just prime time. It was luck. I got her at the right time. I had no expectations and nothing other than I probably end up culling her. That's my only expectation. When I get a pup, that's just how it is. That way, if they do make, I don't get let down. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I just continued to take her on, and I went. I can't remember where I was at. One afternoon, I don't remember what I was doing, but I wasn't going to hunt. And I come home, and my wife says, "You got about 2 hours before it gets dark. Take honey and go hunt." So I throwed her in the truck, and I very rarely do I go to public ground. I just don't like public hunting. Because you don't never know who you're going to run into. On public ground, any idiot can go buy a hunting license, go buy a gun, and go sit in public ground somewhere and don't know nothing about safety.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't like going. I don't like being, but this particular day, I've got a few spots that they flood a lot and nobody else takes a dog to because they're dangerous. It's right on the corner of the I-55, the main 4 or 5 lane interstate that runs through Mississippi, and it corners another highway and I-55, and nobody goes in there. But I'll take pups there that if they're staying within 300 yards of me,
mm-hmm.
I'll take a chance and take them there because it's a lot of game in there. So I went this afternoon. It was rainy. I mean, it was just a bad afternoon. So Briar didn't go with me, and I went, and she had made 1 or 2 trees. Nothing. I can't remember if it was den trees or I wasn't seeing nothing. And she is. I guess I could say she's semi-open. She don't really have what I call. She don't have a ball mouth like Bama.
Okay.
But when she gets excited, she's got a real squally locate to her.
Mm-hmm.
She's real short. And I heard her give that little squall locate. And I said, "Oh, this is a hot one here." I'll probably shoot a squirrel when I get there. Just what I'm thinking walking it. And then I'm watching the gong. She's still moving. Barks a few more times as she's moving. And I thought, okay, this is another plus on this pup. When I gauge a pup, they don't, these albino ones, they don't start at 0 with me. They start at negatives because they're already, they're already the wrong color.
Yeah.
So they have to start on the negative scale, where most everything else start at 0 and work their way up. So I thought, well, I mean, she's opening on track at the plus. She's moving on up on my non-coal scale, and I heard this little squall locate, and she started treeing pretty excited, and so I thought, well, this is a hot one. I started kind of moving hastily. I don't never run into a pup. I used to. When I was younger, Tim Cope would laugh at me. He'd tease me a lot because, I mean, I'd look like Last of the Mohicans running through the woods, jumping limbs and trees. Already got my gun off, safety, going in, ready to, spray and pray. I'd go in there and shoot 40 times at the tree if that's what I need to do. But I get to this pup's tree, and it's huge old live oak. I mean, and I'm looking all around. I'm like, you can park a Volkswagen Bug up in this thing and not see it. No way I'm gonna find a squirrel. As I was walking, she's just treeing like crazy. And as I walk around behind the tree, it split. Or I guess maybe lightning hit it at one time, and you know how they do. Half of them lay over and half of them standing, and it had a big split. And she's kind of, it's not really. She's not getting in the split, but she's kind of barking, into it. And I thought, well, she'd already treed that one coon and bait another one in a log. And I thought, well, I bet she's got a coon in there. And got my gun off safety. And I'm holding my gun, a 22 rifle, but I'm holding it one-handed because just from experience, I go looking in that hole and something jump out at me. I want to be able to go popping caps in it, I pick off in this hole, and I'm like, that's a dang bobcat in his hole. So, I didn't even have time to think because I was like, well, I don't want her getting on a bobcat because she ain't big as a minute. It'll kill her. So I just stuck my gun in the crack of this tree, and I just went to blazing off, throwing some heat up in there. And that bobcat come boiling out of this tree. And as it come out and she went to lunge for it, I scooped her up and grabbed her. Throwed my gun on the ground. It was empty. Grabbed the pup, and this bobcat come boiling out of this busted up tree, biting at itself. Thankfully, it kept going. I'm like screaming at it, like you would you see these videos of folks getting attacked by like buffaloes on the side of the road, and they hollering, "Ah!" I'm trying to hold the dog. Bobcat squalling and dogs barking, and anyway, it goes off about 100 yards or so, and I guess 100 yards. Was right on the edge of a little food plot, and she's raising all kind of cane, and I finally hear it quit moving. I tie her back, grab my gun, reload. I walk over there. I make sure it's dead. I walk back to her, unleash her, and let her track it on her own. And she tracks. Of course, she's seen where it went. You know what I'm saying? But she tracks right to it, and when I say mouthing on it, she was like mad at this bobcat. I can't even describe. You've heard old dogs fighting a coon, right?
Oh yeah.
All right, well, this bobcat was already pushing daisies, and she was fighting it like it was still alive. Just mad at it, and of course I'm excited. I'm like, ain't nobody gonna believe me, And I've had a couple of dudes on the one of the Facebook groups, like Big Game Kimmers or something like that. I had a couple of them old big game guys. Some of them don't like me no way because of my mouth, but whatever. But a couple of them old boys are like, I can't believe a 5.5-month-old pup, trailed this bobcat up and, worked the scent for blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't care if you believe me or not. I'm just telling you what happened. So, I went back to the tree where she treated, that's something that I've always done. I leash my dog to the tree. And if the game, if a squirrel timbers, I don't like a timbering dog, but if a squirrel timbers, I go with the squirrel and kill it. And I'll bring it back to the tree they treat on it and let them chew on it there. I just don't like a dog running through the woods barking up. So anyway, I take her back, tie her back to the tree, and I put this bobcat up on the old busted up part. that was leaned up, and I unleashed her. She run right up that tree, and that's where you see. I post all them pictures around.
Yep.
She straddled that cat and would just throw that head up and just bark like crazy. I mean, she is game crazy, ridiculous for a pup. So I don't remember. I think right before that she had done just enough that I decided I was going to name her, but I didn't know what to name her. And just goes to show how people in your life affect things that you do. When I was a kid, my brother drugged us what we called a cur home. It was a red. It looked like an oversized barter feist, but it was mixed with, I can't even remember what all it was mixed with. I think it was just part cur and part feist.
Okay.
I'd mentioned it in another podcast I was on, but anyway, my brother was a squirrel hunter, and him and his best friend, that's all they hunted was fight. And they hunted the barter fight. Anyway, I was bumping around. I think I'd mentioned, well, I guess his pup's done enough. I'm gonna give her a name. And Stacy, he piped up and he said, I've known him for several years, and he piped up and he said, "Man, the color, she's almost white. She's so buttermilk."
Yep.
He said, "I'd call her Tupelo honey." And I said, that's pretty damn cool. And it just, I just dropped the Tupelo. I was actually from Tupelo, which was kind of ironic that my family lives over in Tupelo, Mississippi. And so I thought, well, heck, that's got to be it, because she's about the color of honey,
Yeah.
So that's where she got her name from. A feist man. I got an albino dog that a feist man named for me. How's that? How's that for karma?
Yep. That needs to be the next yellow female that you keep's name, Karma.
Karma, yeah. Yeah. I've got a couple here to choose from. I've got a couple pups here.
I know you do.
From Chris. I got them from Chris. Chris, like I said, Chris has just always been when me and Chris, when I first kind of started dabbling with some of the Kimmer stuff, like my Crockett dog came from Roger Bennett. That's who I got him from.
Okay.
He was a cull. Crockett was a cull. He had gave him to his nephew. His nephew left him in a kennel 10 months. Dog didn't even have a name. Roger called me. I can't remember if Chris told Roger to call me, or anyway, Roger called me and said, "Hey, I know where a dog is. You looking for something?" And I said, "Yeah, I bought him. Turned out to be the best coon dog ever owned in my life." So I always go, no matter if I'm hunting walkers or whatever, I always go back to Chris looking for something, Chris, I know Chris in his podcast, he mentioned a good friend of his that they went back and forth on dogs, Jerry Lane. Jerry Lane, huge into the Kimmers, big, in OMCBA. He's been around mountain curs, way before I come around. I bought several dogs from Jerry. Super good guy. Most all the dogs I had that the Kimmer that were in them came from Chris Boone and Jerry Lane.
Okay.
So that's why I keep going back to it. It's good stuff. It suits me. I owned a dog years ago. The counselor, Mark Morrison, despised. I can't say despised the dog, but he literally would. If memes would have been a thing back then, this dog would have had more memes, because he was a half brother to Bama's daddy, which is the Ridgeland Jimmy dog. The stuff that Chris and Jerry Lane were breeding and crossing back then. Chris mentioned the Hammer dog. All right. Well, he had a dog off. There was a dog off a Hammer named Jake. Hammer's Jake was his name. Every dog I've owned that had Hammer's Jake in its pedigree had a ball mouth. Big ball mouth.
Yep.
I bought a dog from Jerry.
that Mark Morrison couldn't stand the looks of him. I named him Pirate. He had one eye. I bought him. He was, I don't know, 9, 10 months old. Had run into a cedar, run up under a cedar tree, and poked his eye out.
Ooh.
He was as wild as he was about wild as Captain Jack Sparrow in the movies. Because when I called Jerry Lane, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna buy that dog you got." He goes, "Well, give me about 2 weeks to catch him, and I'll call you back when I got it." He was running loose. He would run every deer in the country. But I like them like that. I like them wild. I don't break my dogs off and under the trash until they. Well, it ain't trash to me until they start treeing coons consistently. I let them run. I've started more pups on jackrabbits than I have really on as far as running track. You get a puppy that can run a jackrabbit track, it'll end up running coon track.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so I let them run deer. I mean, they fall off on a coon. They run in there a mile, fall off on a coon. Perfection.
You sound like a walker man at heart.
Well, I mean, back in the day before I hunted turds, I hunted walkers from the boss, some old Sackett Junior stuff. But I like the same trait, but I like the sense. I don't know. That's not the word I'm looking for. I like the ability to know how to hunt and find game that a cur has.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Some people may not know what I'm talking about, but I've had some hounds. I ain't gonna speak about nobody else's dogs. I personally have had some hounds that when you cut them loose, if you cut them loose down a 4-wheeler trail, they're running that trail until they come across a coon track.
Yep.
And then they're gonna go run that coon and tree it. I mean, that's what they're bred for. It's what they're trained for.
Mm-hmm.
All right. A dog, just say Bama or my old Crockett dog or Chrome or Big Sue, when you turn them loose, all those dogs had bigger motors than a lot of the curs I've hunted with. I've hunted with some other curs that had a ton of motor. Hummer, Matty Ice, Tree Knocking Ammo, Tree Knocking Mike, Campbell, those dogs, big motors. But when you cut them dogs loose, you cut them down a trail, they blow out of sight, but they may go just out of sight 80 yards and bust off down through a draw, or they're going to hit a ditch. They're going to run that ditch out. They come to a lake bed. They're going to run the fingers of the lake until they find something to tree on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They're not just going to run one direction. And I'm not saying that hounds do that. I'm just saying the ones I've had have been more of a, I don't know. I've described it as like I don't want to say single-minded, but more like tunnel vision. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Running until they find that coon track is as far as they, need to go. Well, I don't know what I'm trying to. It's not coming out right what I'm trying to describe, but
no, I understand. I think most people will that your cur dogs, they want to get under game. They're not just going to go run until they find a track, and they're not going to tear off in a straight line until they find a track.
They know where to go
mm-hmm.
to hunt. So one of the farms, just for instance, maybe this will explain myself a little better. One of the farms I hunt is about 2 miles deep and about 4 miles long. All right, and I ride past. It's got corn this year. It's about 30 minutes from the house. I drive past all these cornfields to the big woods. Out in these cornfields is farther than you can see with your eye. But there will be like a little, 1/4 acre patch of trees with a little stock pond spread out maybe 400, 500, 600 yards apart.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I can cut Bama down a 4-wheeler trail and in big hardwoods, headed towards the lake bottom, and sit back on my wheeler. I free cast him like a hound. I can sit back on my side by side. I don't sit and watch the Garmin all the time. I just sit there.
And, if I don't hear from him in 10, 15 minutes, I'll look at my Garmin and he'll be done left the hardwoods and on the Garmin. I think I've even posted pictures of it. He's out in that corn and he'll go from patch of woods to patch of woods, checking every single one of them.
Okay.
Look, instead of running down the side of that cornfield as far as it will go until we come to a track. That's the difference. That's the reason that's the part of the curve that I'm drawn to.
Mm-hmm.
But I still want them I still want to have a big mouth like a hound. I still want them to have the more mud flats, They got to have, I culled 2 pups one time because they didn't have mud flats. That was the only thing I didn't like about them is they had a high ear, and I just don't like a high ear set. So I culled them.
Pups don't stand a chance with you, huh?
No, it takes a, folks, I know you see folks teasing me all the time about my wife, but it takes a special woman to put up with me, and it takes a special dog to eat my feed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to tell you.
I've watched it.
Well, but you know what? I mean, when I go hunting, I got good dogs.
Yep. No, people that cull hard, they tend to have the better dogs. It's just fact. I mean, people that I have friends that cull hard, and they have good dogs because of it.
There's more people that get a dog, don't matter what. I don't care what breed of dog it is. They get a working dog or a hunting dog. They buy it as a pup. They put their time into it. Their family gets, they bond with it. Their family gets, they like it, and the kids like it. My kids have done the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But that don't mean that dog, just because you like it and it's bred good and your kids like it and your wife like it and you fed it for a year, that don't mean it's worth a crap. All right. But because people get that invested in it, they keep taking it to the woods day after day, night after night, knowing in the back of their mind it's never going to be what they're really looking for. But they don't want to start over. You know what I'm saying? It's too much effort to start over. So they just continue to take that. To me now, folks, I don't want folks to get bent out of shape, but to me, I'm not going to settle for less. I know what I want, and I know it's out there. So if I don't settle for less, like other folks do, and that's just the plain truth, folks settle for less.
Mm-hmm.
They want world champions, but they don't want to put the time it takes to make one that, and they don't want to cull the ones that ain't going to make to try something else. So they just keep taking those, the ones that they've settled for. They just keep taking them to the woods, and they may tree squirrels. They may tree a lot of game with them. But if they don't tree game the way I want them to, I mean, you could teach dead-gum house dog to tree a hot squirrel.
Oh yeah.
By walking it through the woods and walking it up on a hot scent. Okay, well, I mean, you may kill 4 or 5 squirrels a day, and for some people, hey, that's what they want. But that ain't what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have a dog and that's all that he'll do, it's a cull. I want one that can treat any type of game in any type of condition, no matter who's walking it on the end of the leash. My old Crockett dog, my buddy, one of my good hunting buddies, he's half my age. Before he had a driver's license, I would go 40 minutes out of the way to pick him up, take him hunting. No, Dallas McCullough.
Mm-hmm.
He's been around these curs and hounds is since he was, way before age. I think he was like 12 or 13 when I first met him. He could call me and say, "Hey, are you going to hunt tonight?" Like when I got hurt at work and I was off work for 3 months, and I had a back injury and I couldn't walk for a while. I was doing therapy, and he'd call and he'd go, obviously you can't hunt tonight because you can't walk. And then my buddies, now he had some black and tans and he had a couple walkers. You're like, man, my buddy's going to kill a raccoon. Can we go get Crockett out of the pen? They would go to my boss's house, get Crockett, as long as they brought him back to the same kennel every night. And he slept in his own bed. They could go get him night after night.
and he would say, "Hey, I'm not going to hunt tonight, but such and such hunted with him 2 or 3 times, and he wants to take somebody and go kill. They want to go kill some coons. Do you care?" And I said, "I don't care. As long as they put a collar on him and they bring him home. Anybody could go get Crockett and go anywhere and tree coons. Ride him in the back of your truck, tree coons. Ride him in your boat and tree coons. Walk hunting, road hunting. That's what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can't do all of those things, they're a cult to me. So for me, 4 Canyon Creek Kennels, I call them and I just keep looking till I find a Bama, I find a honey.
Yep.
I mean, I got these 4 pups out here now. I got from Chris. They're from 2 different litters. I got a male and a female from one litter, and a male and a female from another litter. And I'm gonna raise them in this pen, and me and Chris is gonna see what they do, and he trusts me enough to know that if they need culling, I'm gonna cull them, and if they're gonna mate, and I just don't like them, then I'm gonna place them with people that's gonna hunt them.
Yeah.
I've had to, Dwight and Chris and a couple other ones have pretty much forced me to call them before I cull something, because it may trees the fire to squirrels, but not be quite as big as I want.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, if it's going to be a small dog, I don't want it. So I would cull it. So now I call them and they go, "Hey, such and such is looking for something."
Mm-hmm.
And so then the dog gets placed, it gets hunted. I'm happy, they're happy. That's what we're going to do with these. He's got another litter of pups here. I wanted to raise a litter of my own albino brindles. I'm on the albino brindle train.
I see that.
No, I've repented, and I've been forgiven for all my ill will towards the non-brindles. And like Chris said, I've seen the light. I've probably culled some nice pups because of their color that probably would have made something. So I had a female here that I was going to breed to another male that I gave to a hog hunter.
Mm-hmm.
I got a few hog hunters now that kind of caught wind that I culled pretty good, and so now they'll call periodically and go, "Hey, if you got something you're gonna cull, come holler at me. I'll come pick it up. You won't have to feed it a week or whatever. You call me, I'll come get it that day." So, I gave this guy a huge male. I called him Hooks. He had a huge motor, big mouth, big, beautiful brindle dog, big, long, floppy ears, big headed, jawed dog. But the dog had just had a bad way to go. And he was gun shy, but he wasn't like born gun shy. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
He just had some things just happened in his life that type of loud noise, it just put him off. Mm-hmm. And he would leave the country, and it may be 3 or 4 days for he'd see me. Somebody would call me and say, "Hey, I got your dog over." Everybody in this county pretty much knows me, and they knows a hunt. And if they got thankfully so far, the few dogs that have got away from me, I've only had a couple that never got found. But, they call me, I go pick them up. But this dog, after about the 3rd time of him doing that, I said, "Well, I'm done with this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with this mess." And that hog hunter, actually, a guy called me. I was at Dwight. I hadn't met Dwight. Me and him was standing on the side of I-40, somewhere just south of Nashville, swapping dogs around or something. And a guy called me while we were standing on the side of the highway, and he goes, "Hey, I just found a dog of yours." And I said, "Good." I said, "Take my collars off, and I don't care what you do with the dog." He said, I said, "I work in Hernando," and I told him where I work. And I said, "If you'll go by my shop and just throw them collars out in front of the door up there by the mailbox, I'll get them Monday morning, and the dog's yours if you want it." He goes, "Well, I got a friend that's a hog hunter." I said, "Perfect." Well, I kept the dog's papers, and it just
in an odd chain of events, the dog made a fantastic hog dog, and they don't shoot them. They hobble them up, clip their ear, So the dog's working out for them. So I thought, well, hey, I'll breed to him,
Mm-hmm.
So just to try it, since he made a nice dog. So Chris loaned me a female. She was a half sister to Bama off the Ridgeland Jimmy dog. And the guy agreed to let me breed. I had it all worked out. I kept her like 3 months, waiting on her to come. She's supposed to come in the heat right after I got her. Naturally, I had to feed her for 2 or 3 months. She come in the heat, and I called this guy's buddy, and I said, "Hey man, tell you buddy, I got my females in heat." And the guy got nervous because I kept the papers. He got nervous that I was going to take the dog back from him. So he ghosted me, wouldn't let me breed to it. So anyway, I sent her back home with Chris.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris bred her to his Cholo dog, which is Cholo is off of Carlos, and Big Carlos is off of Ridgeland Jimmy.
Okay.
So that's what these pups are from, and that female that I sent back to him just had pups off of Cholo, which
nice.
He probably, when he hears this, he's probably going to text me and talk bad to me because he didn't want the whole world to know.
Well, they're gonna know.
Yeah. Well, like it is the way it is. He knew in advance what he was getting into being my friend. All right. So,
how did he know in advance?
Everybody warned him. Me and Chris didn't get off on the right foot when we first kind of met each other.
Okay.
We didn't get off on the right foot because of my mouth and I use it a lot and I'm loud when I use it. And when you talk bad about non-brindles to a man that's got a yard full of non-brindles, it ruffles some feathers.
I'm sure it does.
But it all worked out. He finally realized that I was a pretty good old boy, and now I got a yard full of his stuff out here.
Mm-hmm. Well, since you dove headfirst in these Kemmer dogs, and let's talk about a little bit more. You got a hunt coming up.
Yeah, I decided. Like I said before, back when I can't remember what year it was. 2008 maybe. Terry Snyder come to me, and then Mr. Joe Suber, an older friend of ours, an old coon hunter, and said, "Hey, let's start a squirrel club." So we Daniel Ballard come in, a couple of folks. We got a squirrel club started, and we hosted, over 10 or 12 years. I don't know, 200 hunts. We was doing 100 a month. Some months we were doing 2 hunts a month.
Wow.
We were hosting a lot of hunts. NKC, UMCA, and OMCBA. So I just had the experience of running a hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So since I've gotten, so deep into the Kemmers, and with just the way I'm wired, like I said, whatever I do 150%. And so when I dove into the Kemmers, I had to do it 150%. And from years back, I knew, Mr. Van Roberts is the vice president, Mr. G. Montgomery is the president, and I've known him for years. Even though I've not owned registered Kemmers, they knew that, my dogs were mostly Kemmer, half
Mm-hmm.
Kemmer, whatever. So we still engaged with conversation. And of course, with me and my non-brindle, albino brindle type riprap, they, you know how it is. We just all went back and forth on, social media teasing and whatnot. But
Mm-hmm.
so once I dove in and actually got registered Kemmers, Bama is a KSBA only, where Honey and all the pups are dual registered. OMCBA, okay. I can hunt them in both.
Mm-hmm.
I can register them in both. But the KSBA, they have two hunts a year, spring and the fall, and that's when they do their meetings. And like I said, I went to the fall meeting down in Hamilton, Alabama, and I I hadn't been to a hunt since last year's Jamestown World Hunt, OMCBA World Hunt at Jamestown.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to tell you, I was so disappointed. It was terrible. It was awful. I rolled in. I went up to Dwight, just not to get off the subject too much, but I went to Dwight a couple days, maybe 3 or 4 days, 5 days before the hunt. And me and him had hunted. He took me in some of the worst mountains I'd ever been in. Maybe not ever, never, ever want to go back. Then I come down to and stayed with Gerald a couple of nights, and we coon hunted, and we squirrel hunted, and some more stuff. And then I said, hey, let's go over to the World Hunt, see what they got, go see who all is, in the night hunt. We pulled in. Now I will say they had already drawn out. Cass had already left, but previous years, just say 10 years ago, after the draw at the coon hunt, people everywhere sitting on the porch talking, waiting on the coon hunters to come back. These people camped with bonfires going, and there'd be people on the porch of the clubhouse picking the guitars, and lights going on, playing cornhole. Always something going on. We rolled up there, and there was one person sitting beside a fire. There was no vehicles in the parking lot. I walked into the clubhouse with nobody in the clubhouse but me.
Jeez.
I was extremely disappointed. So we left. And so years, and there was a lot of years that the KSBA, they really just weren't doing very good. Mm-hmm. Popularity was, some things went on. I'm not going to mention or get into on your podcast, but there were some things that went on, and there was a lot of bad blood floating around. And there was a website dedicated to timber haters, and and it was ongoing. I mean, it was a known fact that some of the KSBA hunts would only have 2 or 3 dogs. Yeah. People would drive hours to a hunt, and there would be, one cast maybe. So when I got invited to this hunt in Hamilton, I didn't know what to expect. I did. Be honest with you, I expected, 15 people there maybe. And when I pulled up, man, it was folks everywhere. They had a vendor set up. It was just the grounds was beautiful. I can't think of the club, but it's a coon hunters club there in Hamilton. But they open the club to any hunting dog club that wants to host. You can rent it.
Okay. Nice.
To do your, I guess if you were having a field trial for bird dogs, you could use their facility. You just pay them, and beautiful big lake, like a cabin type deal over the lake is nice. Big turnout. I was extremely impressed. It was very well organized for an association that only does 2 a year.
Yeah.
You go to a club. I've been to enough hunts all over the country. You can tell a club that don't host many hunts and a club that does. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a little chaotic. It's not very organized. This was extremely organized. Food, good food. They had shirts to sell, T-shirts. Hats to sell, decals. They had a separate place to your entries, separate place you could register your dog. You could pay your membership fees. It was just, I had a great weekend. I didn't stay the night over there. I drove over there on a Friday. When they drew out the coon hunt, I came back home. I got up and went back over there at daylight and hung around all day. So after that, I had met a lot of the guys over there that I had, talked to. Mm-hmm. And while I was there, Mr. Gene and Mr. Van, I've been talking to Mr. Van Roberts on the phone a good bit because with me being at one time president of the United Mountain Cur Association, I just had that type of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just, we chat on the phone, here and there about the KSBA and growing membership and things of that nature. So anyway, at the hunt, I said, man, y'all should have more fun if you're having this many people. And as a joke, I think Mr. Jean said, well, okay, well, yeah, when are you going to do it? And I was like, no, not me, Hoss. You know what I mean? I just want to go to the hunt. And I come home and was hunting, and it just, there again, it's just the way I'm wired. It just got to boiling in the back of my head. I had such a good time and met such good people that maybe I could help. One thing that I am kind of good at is running my mouth and promoting stuff. I spend a lot of time. I have a lot of downtime at certain times of the day so that I can, I do a lot of stuff on social media and when I'm hunting, I do a lot of my posting while I'm hunting because I'm sitting on the wheeler waiting on dog to get treed. But anyway, I thought, well, maybe I will have a hunt, just a coon hunt only. And, in my area, maybe that there's not a lot of Kimmer guys, but there's some OMCBA dogs. Mm-hmm. Even though they couldn't hunt, I'll get them to guide for me. I'll get my hound guys to guide for me. And I got good spots, all private. I've got tons of game, and I'm going to do it September the 9th. I'm going to host it from my house. By that time, the corn will be tall. Maybe that'll give folks an opportunity to come to a KSBA coon hunt or hunt that normally wouldn't get a chance to. So I called, and I called Mr. Jean, and I said, look, what if I did host a hunt? Would that be okay? And the way KSBA does things, they I guess the way any organization does things, I asked about having the hunt. Of course, they had to get with the board, get approval. Mm-hmm. And anything that I wanted to do, they had to get a board, they had to present it to the board, get approval. So it took a little time to work out all the kinks, but I finally got it worked out where I'm going to have it's a no club affiliation. I'm just hosting this club out of my little farm here. We're going to call it the Cane Creek Classic. And it's just going to be a KSBA sanctioned coon hunt. And the way they do their coon hunts is the way they do their point system. They don't have a point system. It's cast wins. So people that come and hunt, the cast winners, the win, because it's a sanctioned hunt, that cast win is going to go towards their making the Dog of Night champion.
Yep.
Now, they'll still have to go to one of the two KSBA main club hunt, and win their first place. They have to win the first place. You got to have, I don't remember if it's 3 or 5. I think it's 3 cast wins and a first place finish.
Okay.
So they can get to cast wins here. So, my homies down in Florida, Zach Conkey and Corey Davis and them at,
you can't say that name.
Well,
I'm just teasing.
I can say that name. You might not be able to say that name.
That's Zach. That's Zach. No last name.
Zach. It's let's just say my homie Zach. I got Zach is, man, he is one of the greatest dudes that I've gotten to be friends with. I mean,
I'm right there with you. He is great.
He literally helps anybody, anytime. I probably talk to him, I don't know, maybe once a day, every other day, sometimes 3 times a day. Just depends on what he does, being that I am a senior pro staff for Zach, my friend Zach, we bounce ideas off of each other back and forth. So we come up with some Kimmerstock Breeders Association T-shirts with my friend Zach's picture on the front, and he used my Bama dog. I know you've seen them.
Yeah.
And we've got them to where that anybody can get one.
Yep.
Normally I would
say where you could, but anyway.
People can figure it out.
Yeah.
No, actually, Zach texts me. He goes, I guess we're selling Kemmer shirts. He goes, I just got my first order for 2.
I seen a guy post today that on one of the Kimmer boards that he got his. I think it was Tracy Robinson posted, but
I saw somebody did so.
Yeah,
well, I'm gonna shirts though.
They are. I've got some coming of those, and I'm going to be giving those away. I'm going to be giving some away as prizes, and I've got some coming from myself and my family also. And I've also got the same exact shirt, but instead of saying Kimmer stock, it'll say, Pro Staff.
Okay.
Made to wear. But what about my other sponsors? Can I mention them? Or no?
Fine. Yeah.
So John Andrews with Iron Spring Distribution and Showtime Dog Feed is he's sponsoring my dog food.
Nice.
So I'm going to try to give every dog that enters this hunt a sack of Showtime dog food to take home. If they already feed it, great. They'll have an extra bag. If they haven't, they'll have a bag to try.
I've heard good things about it.
So if I do not mention one of my homie, all right, my road dog, Cody Moreland, if I do not mention Cody, all right, he's going to come over here and choke me out. All right. Cody Moreland, most everybody knows, with the Hunting Dog Public podcast.
Yep.
Really good friend of mine. They do a great podcast as well.
They do. I thoroughly enjoy their podcast every Tuesday.
He bought a laser engraver, and he had, I think he had an NSD hunt that he hosted, and he made his own plaques out of wood and laser engraved, and they looked awesome. So I called him and I was like, "Hey, look, I'm going to be having a hunt. Would you make my prizes for me? I'll pay you." And he's like, "Sure." I mean, yeah, sure, I'll make them. So we've been going back and forth. So I'm going to have some Yeti cups. He's going to laser engrave them with. They'll have the Cane Creek Classic and the first, second, third, or whatever.
Nice.
Whatever I decide to do. I'm going to give prizes to the top 3 dogs, even though really it's just the cast wins that count for this hunt. There still will be a first, second, and third place dog.
Yeah.
But I want the hunt to be, over the top. You know what I'm saying? Everything I do is over the top anyway. But I want my first hunt by my, hosting my hunt here, not with the club. I want it to be remembered. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I want everybody to have a fantastic time. I got places in the shade to tie out the dog. I've got a big pond out back. I'm going to let folks park around the pond and tie their dogs out under the big oak trees. So, another good friend of mine, John Dollar, he lives about 10 minutes from where the dog food is over in Walnut, Mississippi. And he called and offered to, he's going to help me with the hunt, and he's providing all the food. So he's going to be bringing some already cooked Boston butts. He's going to prepare all the food and bring it over. So We're going to be barbecue plates, baked beans. That's my secret weapon. I'm going to get everybody full on barbecue and beans before they go hunt, and then it'll slow them down.
There you go.
But I hope that it'll bring some attention to the Kimmer dogs. Yep. Let's just be honest here. But because I'm hunting Kimmer dogs, that's what I'm bringing attention to. It's no matter what happened with them in the past, no matter what other people think about them, that's their business. Whatever they want to think. I've said my fair share about the OMCBA, but I'm going to try to help them and promote them and bring some attention to them and some awareness to the Kimmer dogs and just see if I can do my part.
Yep. Well, that's awesome. And I look forward to seeing how everything turns out. I'm sure you're going to have a great hunt. I wish you weren't, 15 hours from me. Be a little easier to get down there, but
Well, you could fly here, and you could crash at my house. I could make that. I know people. I could probably make that arrangement. I almost have our buddy Zach talked into coming here for the hunt.
There you go.
Yeah. I'm enticing him with all these numbers of coons that I've got.
You gonna show him what a good dog is?
Well, I don't know about that, but I can show him what a good cur dog. He's got some pretty nice. He's got more of a smorgasbord of dogs than I've ever had. Walkers and blue dogs, and I hear that Corey is even has even mentioned getting a pup off Alabama.
Oh,
one day maybe down the line.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, good deal. We're gonna start wrapping this thing up because this is the longest podcast I have ever had. We are
good. I almost made myself a point to make you go over your time limit.
I don't have a time limit, but we did that. We did my usual time's 45 minutes to an hour. We're well past that, so.
I told you I got a lot to say.
And that's all right. So, but I really want to personally thank you. Like you said, you are good at promoting things, and almost every week you're very consistent. Constantly sharing my podcast. When I launched my shirts, you bought them, posting pictures of you wearing them. So I just really want to say thank you. You give me a lot of feedback on episodes that you like, and you've helped me line guests up. You've been very helpful. You've been very helpful in promoting. So I just really want to say thank you for all that you've done for me and helped me through all this, having a podcast and everything. So
absolutely, I appreciate it. I'm honored to be able to be on them. Really, some of the guys listening, they may not. So many folks out there, they don't know who I am. I'm a nobody, but I appreciate you having me on. I enjoy listening to them. I'm glad I'm able to help and give you. I tried to get you hooked up with the old grouchy, old grouchy Tim. But I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
Tim Cope. I know you're listening, buddy.
I was right there. He came and met me. Then he was like, "Nah, I don't want. I'm out of the game."
Yeah. It's not just you that he's turned down.
Oh,
Tim's another good friend of mine. He's been a friend of mine over the years. He's helped me with a lot of advice and Tim for me is one of those guys that when I do something really, really stupid, he'll laugh and talk bad about it. And then he's going to call me on the phone and he's going to give me a what for and tell me not to do it again. You know what I'm saying? Like when I really do something dumb with a dog, he's that voice in the back of my head going, yeah, I know you're going to do it, but don't.
Yeah.
But anyway, I know you want to get off here, and I appreciate you having me on. I enjoy the podcast, and I'll try to. I try to help all the podcasts. Really, Cody and Chris and them. They're good friends of mine. I know you and I we've not been able to meet, but we've known each other for a good while.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be able to help. Look, the hoodie is my wife. It's gone. My wife, first time she wore it, I'm gonna have to get me another one.
Well, they're still available at
super comfortable.
Well, good luck tonight. I know you said you're going to go take Bama out for a little stroll, so hopefully go treat a whole bunch.
My buddy Jeremy's going to open the door and look at me twice. I'm guessing he's wanting to throw boots on and load the wheelers. So, man, I sure appreciate you.
I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Yeah, buddy.
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tree Talkin' Media. And until next time, Keep 'em talking in the timber.